Hello and welcome to episode 2 of our second season of Talking Statamic. Our guest today is Michael Scruse, the other half of Mighty Digital. You may have remembered one of our episodes from our first season. We had Marty, the other half, who was in our, I think it was our 5th episode. Anyway, Michael here is our guest today. So welcome to the show, Michael. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
To start with, maybe you could give us a little bit of a self-introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do, your involvement with Mighty Digital and all that stuff.
For sure. So I'm Michael, one half of Mighty Digital. I'm the MY, Marty is the TY, or MI, sorry, and Marty is the TY. We formed Mighty, this is our 11th year that we've been around. And we came together after both being for nearly 10 years working with the web and having our own little businesses. We have slightly different skill sets, so working on projects together was something we were doing more and more, and just became easier to form the one company. We've been working with Mighty for 11 years. Our core business is designing and building websites and web apps. And of course, the reason we're here is we used Statamic as our primary content management system.
Yeah. Awesome. What's the breakdown of labor between the two of you?
So it can vary. So if I split our two different skill sets, I would class myself more as a front-end developer, and Marty, to categorize him, is a back-end developer. So he does all the really funky functionality. He builds the portals and does the integrations into third-party systems and so forth. And I build the front ends, make it look pretty, and do all that basic user interaction functionality. And we have a mixture of projects. Our dream projects are when we get to work on something together, so something that spans both of our skill sets. But often we will have projects that we're working on independently. So I'm just building a brochure type website for a client, and he's busy building an awards portal for one of our other clients and so forth. Okay. Where there isn't much interaction between us, but more and more we're getting projects that need to span both of that, and so we really enjoy those when we get to collaborate a little more. Even though as business owners we still talk in detail about our projects, we run ideas past each other, but yeah, just being able to actually work on the same job is something we really enjoy.
Yeah, that's always a nice opportunity when you get to do that. Do you get the opportunity to do much of the design yourself, or I understand maybe you bring in contractors for that?
Yeah, so neither Marty and I are designers by any stretch of the imagination. We can direct design. We know what good design looks like and how websites need to look and function. But the actual design execution, we have Matt, who we've both been working with for, I think I've known Matt for probably nearly 18 years or something. So he does the designs for the majority of our projects. And then we have a couple of other contractors that we work with that have slightly different, design aesthetics. So sometimes you want to work with one versus another. But neither of us, we would call ourselves designers at all. Yeah. I think, where I struggle with design is I've got an idea in my head, and I can talk about that idea, but I can't open up Figma and start building that idea visually. So that's where we need someone that's got those skills.
Always good to have that person in your back pocket, for sure. So before you guys started doing Statamic, was it you or was it Marty who found it the first time and said, "Hey, you need to check this out"?
To be honest, I think it was me, but he tells the story that it was him.
Okay.
His version of the story where we were having the carpet replaced in the house is 100% valid. That's when we kind of really got, the time sitting in a corner, digging around looking for a better content management system. Prior to that, I'm sure Marty's told you, but he went down to build his own content management system, people with those skill sets tend to do in their lifetime once. Where I'd spent sort of years since 2006 or something using Joomla to build websites, and it was good. It's fitted in with my skill sets. It filled a need and served a purpose for a period of time, but then as you know, the web evolved, and
Yeah.
some content management systems like Joomla didn't. And the real catalyst was they spent 5 or 6 years developing version 4 of Joomla, and then they released it, and it didn't bring anything new to the table that anything but the biggest programming nerd would find exciting. There was no
Okay.
new user features, no functionality. Nothing had changed in how I would design and build websites using Joomla. And I'm like, there's got to be something better. And that kind of
Mm.
started the search for something better, and what I've termed the promised land, Statamic.
Yeah.
And I say this a lot when we talk about this change, and it really changed our lives. Like, it's a big statement to make, but you know, we were doing work in Joomla. I was building websites. We had a few clients who needed some really specific custom functionality built, portal type stuff, and we're like, oh, how do we
Mhm.
do this in Joomla? It was challenging and not enjoyable work, especially for Marty building that functionality. And the first question would be, when someone wanted something a bit left of field, is how are we going to do this in Joomla? Now, when
Right.
someone wants something left of field, we're like, which way are we going to do this? So it's a very
Right.
different
Okay.
conversation. It feels very different. It feels much lighter. It's like, okay, well, we've got 3 ways we can approach this. What's the best way? It's never about how are we actually ever going to do this. And it's game changing.
That was actually going to be my next question, was how has it sort of manifestly changed life for you? Obviously that's a big change going from how can how can we ever pull this off to in which way? Have your clients experienced something similar where they're in the control panel and they can just sort of figure out what it is that they want to do? Um, and that ease of making changes themselves.
For sure. And we've, because we've got a lot of long term clients. So we've had clients that had a Joomla site in the past, and we've, either we've done a mixture of just migrating them to Statamic because we're dropping old versions of Joomla support, or it's been time for a new website. So we've designed and built a new website. And the feedback is always how much better it is for them as content managers to update the site. It gives them flexibility. Joomla, unless you built some core custom functionality, you had a HTML WYSIWYG field that you put your content in, and that was that. And if you wanted to lay something out, you probably had to do tables. Otherwise, it starts requiring programming, which clients don't have. But in Statamic, you just create your own page builder concept. You build blocks. You can build a block for a very specific type of content that a client might have. Yesterday, I was just building one for a call to action, which required the ability for them to turn on and off an image spinning around as you scroll down the page, kind of thing. So, you know,
Mm.
doing that in Statamic is just so easy. I don't think there's anything I've wanted or needed to do that I haven't been able to do relatively simply.
Right. And you don't really need to lean on plugins or add-ons all that much to achieve something as simple as that.
So, yeah, with Statamic, I think there's one plugin that we use on all sites that we didn't build ourselves. There's a couple we
Hmm.
use in development that were built by other people, but just the fact that you don't need to have a plugin to do things like forms or decent menus, or even manage your SEO metadata and so forth. You can just build that into core. And most of the time, if there is something you need to do, it's a couple of lines of code that you just write yourself. So it's safe and secure, it's maintainable, and you're not relying on third parties to keep packages up to date or anything like that. So it really, I think, makes the whole environment a bit more cohesive, and doesn't feel like it's just
Mm.
hanging together by bits of string. And if you breathe wrong, something's going to break.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned some of the add-ons that you use internally for development. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Or do you want me to name them?
Oh, sure. Yeah, why not?
Ah, uh,
I'm
so
curious how people are using the platforms. It's kind of an opportunity for.
Yeah,
Eager to
for
learn.
sure. So one of the ones we use a lot, it's just waiting for it to be updated for Statomix 6 is Jack Slate's Bard Ipsum. Being able
Mm,
to scaffold your content and just dump lorem ipsum text into the page it saves so much time. You don't have to copy and paste from somewhere else or write your own content
mm-hmm.
just to get things laid out. Um, it's probably the main one we use in development. It's such a small little plugin and task, but it saves so much time.
Mm-hmm. What about your own add-ons?
So most of our add-ons are in all sites. So Economic for doing icons and so forth, Feedomic for feeds. Up until version 6, there was our two-factor add-on that we did. And that came out of the need for a particular client a few years ago who they were a long-term client. We were selling them on upgrading from Joomla and migrating them to Statamic. At that point, the biggest sticking point was two-factor authentication. There was another third-party plugin that wasn't maintained anymore, so we built our own. They were a bit hesitant to rely
Yeah.
on a third-party plugin, so we built our own, and that went into every site from that point onwards. And now, as you may or may not know, that got rolled into Statomix 6.
So that's pretty exciting to see an add-on like that get rolled into core. Um, what was that? What was that experience like for you? Was that, Jack and the guys at Statomix saying, "Hey, we'd love to incorporate this into core. How can we do that?" Or was it somebody else's suggestion?
No, it came from Jack. There was a couple of conversations about that, and yeah, it was an easy process. It was great. We're happy with the end result because for us, it's more about contributing. So if we think
Mm-hmm.
back to and talk about the community being such a great space for people who are new to Statamic or people who are high end developers and everyone in between. Marty had an experience with Joomla and trying to contribute something to perform a particular function that he thought other people would have, and he got completely shot down, like completely,
Oh
like
man.
like you wouldn't talk to someone like that in person. But then we come into Statamic, and we couldn't count the number of pull requests Marty's put in for Statamic Core. The fact that we've contributed two factor, we've got all these add-ons out there that people are using and loving, and just the community on Discord and in general, everyone's helpful and welcoming, and it makes all the difference. Like, just makes the world a better place if people are friendly and helpful.
Yeah, 100%. How does that manifest itself in your part of the world, in Australia, to facilitate that kind of community? I understand there's some. Do you have like an online meetup?
Yeah, so it's something we run every couple of months. There's a small number of people that attend regularly. It's a small Statamic community, but it's good. Like, we all know each other and we communicate. We're working really hard to, um, I guess, sell Statamic to the rest of the country and the world, just to get the name out
Hmm.
there. People haven't heard of it, but they're open to it. We haven't really had any pushback on using Statamic as a platform. There has been occasional jobs we haven't got because people really have in their mind that they want to use a particular platform, and you're never going to change that,
Right.
and that's fine. But if we've proposed it to a client, there's very rarely any talk about it. They'll ask questions because they haven't heard about it, but it's more out of curiosity
Mm.
than anything else. Yeah, so we've had a couple of clients approach us who are looking for Statamic specifically, which is great. One of the early clients, that was the case. They were looking for Statamic, and we've done two jobs for them over the years. A project I'm working on at the moment has an existing Statamic site and just needed a new developer to take that over and add some new features and functionality to it. So the name's getting out there, which is great. It makes us happy to see that clients are open to something more than the three or four that everyone knows.
Hmm. Hmm. When you get into a meeting with a new prospect and they haven't heard of Static before, is there a common sort of aha moment that they all share? that convinces them, yes, this is going to work for us? Or is it
Um,
different for everyone?
it is different for everyone, but I think, talking about more the business needs and focus than the technical requirements. We talk about the things that for most sites it's flat file, which means no database, which is often the cause of hackings and so
Hmm.
forth. So security is a big one, and I've built a little demo site, so sometimes the clients to see it. So it's called the Cake Studio. So it's a cake shop that makes cakes, but it showcases all the key functionality of Statamic that's core, plus a few bits and pieces that we've built along the way, just to show them how the experience is from a content management point of view. Um,
Hmm.
we had a demo we did recently where the client needs different levels of admin user access. So we showed all the way from
Yep.
super admin down to a person who can do nothing but access one collection and create content but not delete or publish content. So
Right.
the flexibility around access control is something a lot of people are interested in.
That's actually one of my favorite features, and we don't talk about it a lot. When we're talking about the benefits of Statamic, yeah, I find. But I'm working on a project right now, and um, you know, some of the editors are like, "Well, how can I do this one thing?" And it was actually pretty trivial for me to go and change the group that they're in
Yep.
and update all their permissions and everything. Something like that requires a plugin, sometimes a paid plugin. If we're talking platforms like WordPress, for example, I'm not sure about Joomla, but this was a huge selling point for me to come to Statamic actually.
So Joomla has access control, but it's just complicated to set up and manage. But as you know, in Statamic, it's just a few clicks of the mouse, and you can create a new group with different levels of permissions. The client I
Mm,
referred to before, where we did the two-factor plugin for them, they have several groups in their website, and one of them, their only task is we build in a global where they could literally log in and turn their web chat on and off. And there's a group
okay,
that's all they can do. So they can log in, they can turn the chat on, they can turn the chat off, and that's it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, in discussing Statamic projects, it's generally, at least within the community, understood that you need a certain level of developer skill in order to get a website up and running, which is true. Um, but once it's up and running, the developer skill isn't as required. uh, you know, Once it's all going, right?
Yep.
It's not exactly a set it and forget it sort of situation, but um, I think some people worry sometimes that I need a developer in order to use this platform, as compared to something like WordPress, maybe Joomla too, where you can sort of get it set up without any sort of technical help. Do you want to talk about that distinction? Um, is there that much of a distinction in terms of the level of dev support you actually need?
There's probably not, and we have clients on a range of different arrangements. We pretty much host all the websites we build ourselves, so we run our own virtual servers and manage and maintain those. So when we sell the project, that's what we're selling as well.
Hmm.
Um, then we have quite a lot of clients who are on what we call a care package. So for a monthly fee, they get some time from us and the hosting included, and they can use that time just because they're busy and they need a new page created, or they might save up for a couple of months because they need a new block designed, or they want to
Hmm.
add a new section to the website, or something that does actually require some development to happen. um, and then we've got clients who were happy just to set and forget, and as part of the hosting, we just keep the core up to date and make sure that any
Yeah.
security patches get applied so that they can be comfortable that their website's secure and isn't going to be hacked, but they don't do much with the content going forward. And then we've got clients who just manage all the content. They do everything themselves except the core updates. That's still a mighty job.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. How would you describe the learning curve for developers coming into Statamic? I know Marty, for example, described himself as a full level nerd.
Yep.
With he's got his computer science degree and all this stuff. Whereas you're a front end guy, probably with a different kind of experience coming into it. Is there anything that you had to learn uh, technically in order to get up to speed a little bit before you became um, operational, I suppose?
Yeah, there was actually quite a bit that I had to learn. So I came from the Joomla world where you had databases and cPanel hosting and FTP and all those things. So I then had to learn Git, which was something I had never used
Ah,
before. So
okay.
that was a big thing. Moving to Tailwind was a new concept for me. But Tailwind's interesting. People love it or hate it. We love it, but the thing with Tailwind is without the underlying knowledge of CSS and how it works and how what Tailwind's doing, you're not going to get it. So that was a fairly simple
Right.
learning curve. But then I had to learn antlers and all those things that are used in building the templates for Statamic, and we're about to look at moving all that to Blade. So then there's another thing to learn,
Okay.
but if you're not learning something, then life can
For
get pretty
sure. For
boring.
sure.
So while the learning curve was steep, I think it was pretty short time wise. Wasn't
Okay. So not something insurmountable for somebody who's just exploring it. It shouldn't take them too much time.
no, no, no. I think understanding how Git works is probably the hardest of those things to get your head around.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So what's the motivation behind switching from antlers to blade then?
So it comes back to the dream kind of projects where Marty and I are working on something together. Where having I guess the same language across a simple Statamic site and a Laravel app in the back end, not switching from antlers to blade from one to the other and so forth. Just having a bit more consistency around how we're implementing things. That's the probably non-technical reason. Marty's probably got a more technical reason.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think we talked about it when we did our episode last year, but I don't remember
Yeah.
all the details.
Well, we have been talking about it together for a while, so I think it's
Hmm.
going to happen soon. So we have our own starter kit that we use, which is bare bones. It has zero design. It just has some of the core bits and pieces that we like to build into every site. And
Yep.
with Static 6 as the opportunity to rebuild that, and I think we're going to head
Yeah.
into the blade direction when that happens.
So when it comes to collaboration, you guys are in close proximity. Um, what does that look like for you? Are you working in? Do you have your own workspaces, um, or are you screen sharing stuff?
So yeah, we do have our own workspaces, which I think is key. It means you can have your own music, you can do your own thing. But we do a mixture. Like sometimes we're lazy, we do screen share and just jump on Teams and have quick calls. But other times we
Mhm.
are at one or the other's desk, or sometimes if we're working on something bigger, we'll move to a different location and sit together and work through a design or a proposal or project scope or something like that.
Before we go, I'd love to know um, what is a unpopular opinion or controversial take that you might have when it comes to, the dev world, or maybe not even dev stuff.
It's probably my biggest unpopular opinion, and I'm going to prefix this by saying I think as web professionals, it's our fault. But we've sold
Mhm.
this idea over the last 20 years that people can manage their own website, and a lot of people can. But my unpopular opinion is that not everyone has the skills to do that because,
Mm.
managing a website, there's a small level of technical expertise required. There's understanding copy and how copy needs to be written and so forth. But probably the biggest one we come across is how people manage images. And,
Ah, okay.
there's some great tools in Statamic where you don't have to crop images before you upload them, which I think is,
Hmm.
one of the really good features of Statamic itself. But still having the concept of what kind of image is going to fit in a space, or the number of times someone says, "Oh, I'd like to use this for my banner image," which of course is typically landscape, but they send you a portrait image. So it does take skills to manage a website understanding content, understanding how a page needs to be structured and flows, and how to best manage your images. So I think we've sold this thing, over the years, that it's easy to do. And while it's not that hard, I think it still requires skill.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. To me, that doesn't sound particularly controversial, but I see where you're coming from.
Yep. Yep.
Well, thanks for joining me today, Michael. I'd love to know, maybe we can just let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find information about you online. If you have, socials and all that stuff, where can people find more about you and your company?
For sure. So the Mighty website is just mighty.com.au. You can find out about everything we do, past projects, bit more information about myself. And I typically, social-wise, you can find me on LinkedIn. I try to post most days, sort of keep some activity happening there.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for joining us. It's been a fun conversation, and I hope people listening will be inspired to try Statamic if they haven't tried it out just yet.
No problems. And yes, I think everyone should be looking at Statamic, and if they want a demo, they know where to find me.
And for those of you who want some more information about our podcast, and some of the other things that we're doing, you can come to talkingstatamic.com, where you can sign up for our email newsletter. And also, until the end of the month, February here in 2026, when we're recording this, my own starter kit is on sale. There's a discount code that'll be in the show notes on talkingstatamic.com for this episode. As always, thanks for watching and listening. Catch you next time.